What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a aggressive Chief Keef beat or like a Lex Luger type beat. So I'll let you hear the beat and I'll explain the layout for the video. So that's how it sounds. So I'll go over the melody parts and some drum parts, how I thought when I made them, and yeah. So let's start off with the piano. So the piano was my base for the beat, or my starting point, which I built the other melodies out of. And you can just, start placing your notes on what scale you want to use and build it out off of there. And if you don't know where to place your notes, you're having a problem, you're new, you can use a scale sheet, which comes in some drum packs. You can just drag it into here, and it will highlight all of the notes in that scale over here, like behind everything. And I changed it up a little bit here. You can see I added one note, added two notes compared to these, just to change it up, and then you just copy pasted it. And what you can also do is that you can change the velocity if you want it to sound more natural. I didn't do it for this beat for some reason, but you can do that. So it sounds like this. Yeah. And so then I added some hits because I wanted, in most of these aggressive beats, they have very mighty hits. So what you can't see right now is that if I built the piano first, right? So I would see the piano notes behind here. I have split everything right now, so I cannot see them, but it sounds like this. And I did exactly the same thing with another hit. So I basically layered the hits. So together sound like this. Very mighty. But yeah, anyways. So also an important thing when you make a beat is to have like a sound that fills up the empty spaces. So if I would just have hits and piano, it would sound empty, or like something would be missing. So the pad comes in clutch with that. So I just added a pad. So this is basically built off of the piano. You see the notes as I said. So let me show you guys the piano is the Nexus. It's Arena Ambience piano. The hits are from the DP drum kit. DP shows the screen. And the pad is it's called Plus 25 Dreaming in Expand. So yeah, let's go over to the bells. So this is basically like a counter melody for the piano. So I always think bells and piano complement each other very well, especially in Chief Keef beats. So this is how it sounds. So I'll let you hear them together, actually. So now it basically makes a little bit more sense. So when I made those, I felt like, okay, this is good, but maybe I should add something to change it up a little bit later. So strings is also a very nice instrument that comes in useful in these types of beats. So I just added a string pattern like this. So yeah, so now the strings and the pads takes the place of filling out the beat where empty spaces are, and the strings comes also in when you want it to change up a little bit. It's not a very dominant sound. It kind of is. So, but you don't want a sound that takes up too much space or like takes all of the attention from the other things. So the piano and the bells work together, the pad and the strings works together in this beat, and the hits works together. I don't know really how to explain it, but that's like how I think when I make the beat. And instead of using a clap, I use the snare, because this is an aggressive beat, so you can use the sledge snare. So it's like... so this is getting kind of messy. Sorry, let me show you the bells and the strings. So the bells are hands up bells, so you go to plucked in Nexus and take hands up bells 3. And then we have the strings, which are dark cellos in Nexus. And as for so when I've added the snares, I usually just add a hi-hat, and I go in here and right click and do fill each 2 steps or whatever. But then I change it up later, like with the pattern when I have like more drums implemented, because if I make the hi-hats like detailed before I add everything else, they might clash with some other drum where I want the other drum to hit before over the hi-hat, you know. So I usually change the patterns of these later. Then I just go in here to piano roll and change them. And as you can see here, I played actually around with the velocity for it to change up a little bit. So it sounds like this. Yep. And as for the 808, we have it placed like this. So what I usually do with the 808 is I add 808 into here, and then I place the notes like this, like very basic, right? And then I go into the piano roll. I press this cog thing, whatever, and then I press quick legato. And what it does is like it stretches the notes out to each other, so there's no empty spaces in between. And what you need to think of when doing the 808 is like, you want to trim it, you want to go into it and trim it. You also want to cut it. And over here, you want it to look like this. Because then it basically stops playing when the note ends, right? And what you can do if you don't want to use a kick, but you want the 808 to sound like it's layered with a kick, you can go to pitch, you place this all the way down to the right, place everything down, and then you can choose here how brutal you want the kick-like sounds to sound, you know? And the last important thing also for this is checking you right click here, go into audio editor, mark everything, press the little flag, and detect pitch regions. Now you will see the root note for the 808. So what you need to do is you go over here and right click where the root note is. So otherwise it might sound off. So that's very important. So for everything else, so the snare, I just trim it and normalize it. As well for the hi-hat, everything else. But the 808 you don't normalize. If you want it to sound louder, you can go into here. I usually drag up the velocity all the way up, and then I mix it. I'll show you the mixing later. But if you still don't think it's enough, you can always go in here and boost this. So it basically stretches out the sound wave. And so then I added open hats just to fill out. Added some snares for when I wanted to mark that it goes into another section of the beat, so it goes from the hook to the verse. It sounds like this. Maybe I can show you how it looks. So yeah, it looks like this. You can play around with the which steps you use. And then you just like you mark a note, and then you do Control U, and it splits it into whatever you have marked. So it's like splits it up. And then I have a chanting. So just chants. I usually like to use chants overall, but it fits real well in these types of beats because I don't know, it makes it sound more hyped, in my opinion. Also have the crash, just hits in the beginning of each section. I also have a specific intro crash for the beat as well. Then we have the riser before it drops into the 808. And down here is just my tags. Also added a volume fader at the end. So let's go over the mixing just a little bit. So what I usually do is, first I build the melody, and then I mix the melody. Then I do the drums. I mix the drums together with the melody. And before I export the beat, I mix everything together. So it's like, so basically after I made the melody, I add to the master, add a paramedic EQ. I take out some low end. Add a soft clipper for it not to distort. And Edison is just here because I checked the 808's root key. So for all the melody parts, I use EQ, take out as much bass as possible. If you don't know where you want to place it for each instrument, you can press this arrow and press heat map enabled. You can see where the most active frequencies are. And if you wonder how to get it like this, you just go up here and scroll down until it's like a square. So yep, when I've made everything like this, I go into the drums. So the drums are like, you take out bass depending on what what thing it is, like if it is a hi-hat, if it is a snare. And here we have the 808. So I don't usually take it down in volume because I want it to be loud. And I don't know if this is true, but it works for me. If you heighten around the 700 hertz area, the bass will sound louder on like shit speakers. I don't know, it works on my speakers, but and then I also take up some bass and a little bit of sub bass. I also check where the most active frequencies are over here. As well for the other things, just the same thing. Paramedic EQ, steer enhancer, take out bass. And for the last thing over here is like, you can, so for the clap, or like a snare in this case, the hi-hats and the 808, I do stereo separation 100% merged because it isolates the sounds a little bit. But if I do it the other way around, to the left, it makes the sounds louder, or like they sound larger and more blended together for some reason. So I usually like to have that on the melodies, and then on the drums I either not touch them, like for the crashes and open hats, but for the 808 snare, hi-hat, clap, I usually do 100% merged. Yeah, so that's basically it for the beat. So hope you enjoyed. Bye.